Welcome, everybody, to tonight's call. This call I'm so excited about. This is a call about all things metabolic health. If you or somebody that you care about is struggling with your metabolic health, you're in the right place. You're going to learn some really cool science behind metabolic health, and more specifically, the science behind fiber and fasting. How to dramatically improve our metabolic health, our overall health, with a little bit of fiber and a little bit of fasting. So we're going to talk all about that today, and I've got some really special guests today. To begin, I'll just introduce myself. And for anybody that's just joining the chat, if you're here in the live Zoom stream, you can change your language to Spanish. And if you change it to Spanish, you can watch this in Spanish. Next week, we're also going to have Somali translation. So this is growing. When we first started doing these calls, it was just kind of a small group. And look at what's happening. If you're here for the first time, I am so glad you're here. You're going to love it. And we hope that you'll come back and visit us often. What you're about to hear, in my opinion, is something that needs to be printed in newspapers. It needs to be what replaces the infomercials for all the late night drugs, the late night infomercials for all the drugs and injections and these, different surgeries and things like that. We're going to talk about a natural, safe way to dramatically and measurably improve metabolic health. So I'm stalling a little bit right here, just waiting for my screen to share. There we go. So hi, everybody. Some of you may not be familiar with me. My name is Trent, better known as Trenty Talk on social media. Over the last year and a half, I have started talking about metabolic health. And the whole reason why I started doing this is because of my dad. 6 years ago, my dad died from stage 4 colon cancer. The cancer is ultimately what killed my dad. When they found the cancer, it had spread all over his body. It was in his liver. It was in his lungs. It was everywhere. And but it really didn't start with cancer. It started with something called insulin resistance. My dad was pre-diabetic. He was overweight. He struggled with blood pressure and cholesterol. He also had a skin condition known as psoriasis that covered most of his body. My dad was like the greatest guy in the world, but he had the world's worst diet. And so when my dad got sick and was diagnosed with cancer, I went into a panic. And I was just desperate to try and find something that may save, my dying father. And what I learned as I was trying to save my dying father was something that I couldn't unlearn. Once I had seen it and read the research, I asked myself, why didn't somebody tell my dad about this 5 years ago, 10 years ago? He would still be alive today. And that is why we started doing these calls. It was too late for my dad, but perhaps you or your dad or mom or a loved one is struggling with their metabolic health. And so I want to share with you, and over the next, 45 minutes to an hour, we're going to talk all about what can be done early to help us all live healthier, better lives. Now, to begin this call, I have invited a very special guest. This is something we started to do over the last couple of months, and it's been a lot of fun. Most of these people have been complete strangers to me, people that I've never met in my life, and today's kind of the same. Katie and I have never met in person. I've spoke with Katie over the phone and exchanged some text messages, but Katie is somebody who has found this protocol and has a really amazing story. So to begin this call, I wanted to get some of Katie's story, and then we're going to go into the science behind this protocol, and I have some help to help me explain insulin resistance. And at the end of this call, we'll open up a Q&A. But for anybody that's here for the first time, we're going to do something really special where I just want to show you some crazy results of what's possible with this approach. So all of that will come here soon. First, Katie. Katie, welcome to the call. Thanks for being here. Tell us first, who are you? What do you do? Where are you from?
Yes, I'm Katie Hoffman. I live in Southern California. It's called Ladera Ranch. And I am a wife and a mom. I've got 3 kids, and I am a hairstylist.
Awesome. Awesome. And Katie and my sister are close friends. And so Katie, prior to starting this protocol, tell us where you were at with your health.
So, I have struggled with metabolic health for years, and so I kind of knew all like a lot of these terms and knew that I had them, but didn't, that was about it. So about 20 plus years ago, I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome and was told about insulin resistance, but I just kind of like put it on a shelf and was like, okay, I am going to start taking metformin. And that was it. I just kind of did what my doctor told me to do. And so over the course of probably about 16 years, I had these symptoms that would like pop up, high cholesterol, high blood sugars, some hair loss, but like nothing I could like really put my finger on. They were just kind of almost like lurking in the background. I had my 3 kids, and then kind of probably about 5 years ago, out of nowhere, I just had major weight gain, like super low energy, major hair loss. And I was like, hold on, this, I haven't changed anything. Like I didn't all of a sudden start eating all this food and so I started going back to an endocrinologist, and he was like, oh yeah, you just, you need to eat less and you need to move more. And I kind of know where this is going. You probably just need, some type of weight loss surgery. And I was like, okay, hold on. Can you test my thyroid? Like, can you do something that can give me some answers? And just from there, I was like on a mission to find out, because I just knew it, like in my gut, like this wasn't just I had gained some weight and I needed to do something about it. And so I did. I started this quest, and I took like a weight loss shot, hoping that that would help, starting in 2019. So kind of before it became popular, but I feel like I was one of the originals. My doctor had prescribed that to me for pre-diabetes, and that just nothing was helping me. And so I stumbled upon about basically balancing blood sugar. So I was like, okay, I'll try this. I've tried everything else and I'm like beating my head against a wall. And so I was like, I'm going to try balancing my blood sugar. And through the course of intermittent fasting, I started doing that. I started prioritizing fiber. And that's when I heard from Trent's sister and my hairstylist and one of my best friends. She's like, hey, I have something that goes along with what you're trying to do. And so I kind of like dipped my toes into using some supplements and whatnot, but I really hit the ground running and balanced my blood sugar. And here I am now. It's been about a little over a year, and I have lost over 70 pounds, which is exciting. The weight loss is exciting, but like really it's my energy levels. It's the fact that I like eat food now and I'm not starving like directly after I eat. That was like a big thing I dealt with, was like never feeling full and feeling like there was something wrong with me for always being hungry. I was like, why can't, and I was like, started to be like mean to myself. Like, why can't I just not eat? All these people around me, like they have more willpower than me. And so anyway, it's needless to say, it's changed my life, but I genuinely know that it just, everything lined up and my body was like, thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Your story is incredible, and I know you've got a picture, and we want to see the picture
I
if
do.
you don't mind sharing it with us.
Okay.
But oh
Should I
wow,
wait?
you've got it right there.
Should I
Hold it
wait?
up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So here is my before, and then this is kind of my during. I've still lost a little bit from there, but that's it.
That is incredible, Katie. Way to go. So, Katie, a couple questions.
Yes.
How long were you on metformin?
Okay, that's a great one. I was on metformin for 20 years, 21 years almost.
And what about now?
So now I am not on metformin, and I take zero medications, which
So
is bizarre.
you were on medications for
Mhm.
PCOS, high blood sugar, weight control. You tried injections,
Adult acne.
And you're no longer on any prescription drugs whatsoever.
I'm not.
Katie,
Zero.
that is just amazing. So one last question. I know that I told you this would take like 3 minutes and we're going way over that. So just one more question. What are some of the struggles that you had? Like for me, I've always struggled with overeating. I eat past the point of being full to the point where I'm almost uncomfortable, right? Snacking is another problem for me. For some people, it's sweet tooth or salt tooth. What were some of your vices, and how do you feel like the protocol has helped with those vices?
Okay, definitely overeating, like hands down. And I now like genuinely don't have the cravings. So like before I would eat something and I would be hungry like as I was throwing the wrapper away in the trash. Like it was, or cleaning my plate. I was like, so and now I'm hungry again. So that satiety and like lack of cravings is actually still kind of bizarre to me. Like I'm like, wait, I genuinely am not searching for the next bite of food. And low energy. I felt, I mean, I know I have 3 kids and I work and I try to be a really good wife. Like I know I have a lot on my plate. However, the lack of energy that I had was like not typical. And so now, like the fact that I don't nap anymore, my husband's like, who are you? I'm like, I don't know. I'm a new woman, but I just every afternoon, I'm like, if I could just take a 10-minute nap, like I had to function. So that has also gone away, and that's amazing.
Well, we are so, so happy for you. And Katie, thank you for coming on here, voluntarily and sharing your story. There is somebody else out there who's going to see this. I mean, there's 200 people in this call right now, plus all the people on the restreams. There is somebody who's feeling frustrated. There's somebody who's struggling with their PCOS or their insulin resistance, or maybe they've been on metformin for 30 years and are dying to get off it, right? Who's going to hear your story and going to be inspired. So thank you so much for joining the call. Guys, give Katie a big hand, a round of applause. Katie, thanks so much for
Thank
coming on
you.
the call. We're really, really happy for you. So great job. And credit to you for being brave and taking action and, trusting something that a lot of people might be skeptical about, because we're not talking, and if you're new to this, we're not talking about a different medicine or a different injection or some, Band-Aid. If the root cause of the problem is insulin resistance, we just simply want to attack the problem at its root. And when we kill the root of that nasty tree, a lot of the symptoms die with it, right? So you're going to hear a lot of people that will talk about calories and about macros and about exercise and about all kinds of things. And there's great science behind all of that, I'm sure. Tonight on this call, our goal is to focus on insulin. Now, if you are not familiar with the term insulin resistance, in the next 10, 20 minutes, you're going to know more about insulin resistance than 99% of the world. Insulin resistance is at the heart of just about every single metabolic and chronic health condition that we have. Insulin resistance is the problem. Insulin resistance is why we are getting sick. And if we can simply address the insulin resistance, like Katie did, we can get unsick. No more PCOS symptoms, no more metformin, no more 74 pounds of extra weight, no more brain fog, no more tired after eating, no more afternoon naps. Everything she just said, I mean, she said that perfectly. All of that can disappear by fixing one little thing: the insulin sensitivity of the individual. So, on today's call, we have a very special guest. Now, she has been so kind to volunteer and help with these because this is her passion in life. Lindsay Venn is a PA and an RD, and she's one of the top experts in the world on insulin resistance. She eats, sleeps, and breathes reading papers, literature, science, and then actually applying this science with patients every day in her clinic, right? And so she's one of the founding members of the Metabolic Society of Healthcare Practitioners. Lindsay works with people like Dr. Ben Bickman and other experts who are at the forefront of the battle against insulin resistance. And we've invited Lindsay here tonight to take a moment and teach us all what is insulin resistance and why is it such a big problem. So Lindsay, I'll mute myself. Take it away, Lindsay.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction. I'm going to see how talented I can be with my technology tonight. We'll see if I can get this to work, but at least that way I can draw for you guys on here. So welcome everybody. These slides and stuff are always available if you need them. Let me put that on like that. So we'll see if this pops up. It should come up in just a second. So if you need them, let me know. The first slide you're going to see does show, it's not working, is it, Trent?
It's going to come, I think. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. So here's my little slide presentation. I always put this on because people always ask in the chat. VennIntegrativeMedicine.com is where you can find me. Please reach out if you want any kind of professional help. But I do like to talk a lot about what is insulin resistance, because the minute you understand what it is, the easier it becomes to do what I need you to do. I just literally, a half an hour visit turned into an hour visit, and this gal, it was just great. But her fasting insulin was 31 and her A1C had crept up to 5.7 and all of these things. And she came to me for PCOS. And anyway, it's wonderful because she was able to regurgitate to me what I needed her to know and can therefore now make the right decisions. So anyway, so I'm going to teach all of you all. So hopefully this makes it a little easier. So insulin, it is this hormone. It's a growth hormone. It is only secreted in times of being fed. And so if you've been fed, your insulin will go up in response to glucose going up, therefore helping cells utilize that glucose. Every cell in the body requires insulin to utilize glucose. So these little receptors that you see down here are insulin receptors. You eat something, your glucose goes up, your insulin goes up, insulin gets into this receptor, and all of a sudden you can use your glucose. Well, insulin resistance is exactly what it sounds like. You are now resistant to the effects of insulin, meaning that this little cell receptor right here no longer works. It is resistant to what insulin is supposed to do, and therefore glucose cannot get in. Well, what does the body do with that? Well, it starts to make more and more and more insulin. And so what happens, the way Dr. Jason Fung describes it, is it's like these conductors on the train system. When we make lots and lots and lots of insulin, we shove as much glucose into our cells as we possibly can, because that's what insulin's job is to do. And so we certainly don't want that to be the case in the human body, because we not only shove lots and lots of fat into, or glucose and whatnot into our fat, we also shove it into places where it's not supposed to be, like our liver and our muscle and things like that. So we'll talk more about that as time goes on. So what's the problem with that? Well, we can store fat in two different ways. So we can store by way of hypertrophy or by way of hyperplasia. The majority, 95% of humans use hypertrophy, which means each little fat cell is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, versus hyperplasia, where we just make more and more tiny little fat cells. Well, the problem is hypertrophy is extremely inflammatory. And so when we have all of that inflammation is when we get all of these other chronic diseases like coronary artery disease, high blood pressure, cancer, PCOS, etc. That's what happens. Hyperplasia, that's where we become massively obese. And that's where our 600-pound life people come from, is hyperplastic fat stores. Just remember, the majority of you are hypertrophic when it comes to how you store fat. This study was done in 2019. It showed that only 12% of us actually are metabolically healthy. The other 88% of us in the United States are actually unhealthy when it comes to our metabolic health. And that means, that's why we're all on this call. We all either have it or know somebody who has it, showing that increased prevalence. Oh, I did write up here just to remind myself, InsulinIQ.com, guys, Ben Bickman, we are coming back starting on Monday. Go to InsulinIQ.com, sign up, and you can actually have free access to Ben and myself for the next 6 weeks. Anyway, why does it matter? This is his slide. Insulin resistance is the root cause of all of these things. It's amazing to me how many of these things are related to one thing. And the good news here is that one thing that we can improve will improve all of these others, or prevent all of these others when it comes to your general health. And the medications, your doctor's just throwing medications at these rather than helping you cure it, like Trent had said. Kill the roots and you'll get to the problem. So I talk about a few of these in detail. Hypertension or high blood pressure. I compare your blood vessels to a garden hose. A normal garden hose out in nice weather is going to have normal volume and normal flexibility, and everything's going to go the way it's supposed to go. Well, high levels of insulin will lead to two problems when it comes to blood pressure. The first problem is increased volume. We have increased volume because insulin will increase aldosterone, which is a hormone secreted by the kidneys, which increases volume, which will worsen pressure. When you have a garden hose that's not flexible, like a frozen garden hose, for example, like what my garden hose would look like right now, then you also don't have the ability to constrict or to dilate. That flexibility goes away. In the vessels, this is called vasodilation and vasoconstriction. So if you're constantly constricted, if you have this constriction problem and increased volume, you're creating this huge amount of pressure. Both of these can be reversed by lowering insulin. Where it comes in with the vasoconstriction is the endothelial lining, these tiny little cells right in the middle of your vessels, they become insulin resistant. So they don't function the way they're supposed to. When it comes to coronary artery disease, this is where people think that eating saturated fat is going to just clog your arteries. You know, you eat fat, drink fat, it goes directly into your pipes and you're going to create coronary artery disease. This is 100% not true. We now know that a triglyceride to HDL ratio is the #1 predictor of coronary artery disease. So this is your triglyceride divided by your HDL. In Canada, you multiply it by 2.3. Trent asked me to give an example. So here's my recent labs, since it was kind of short notice. So you can see on here, the B12, by the way, from the balance is doing a wonderful job. But if I were to take my triglycerides, this 84 number, and divide it by my HDL number, that one's easy because they're pretty much equal. It's 84 divided by 83 equals 1. So I'm doing pretty well. You want to be less than 1 to be a rock star. You want to be less than 1.8. If you were to have a triglyceride, say, of 100 and an HDL cholesterol of 50, which I see far more often, or the lady I just saw, she was 231 on her triglycerides and 41 on her HDL. So her ratio was 5.1. So very, very increased risk of coronary artery disease. Divide that triglyceride by the HDL. And that's the thing you really want to focus on, even more so than my slightly elevated total cholesterol and LDL. Move on to the next one, Alzheimer's disease. I actually saw another lady today for this as well. The #1 reason she wanted to be seen was her mom and her grandmother both died of Alzheimer's. This is now called type 3 diabetes. This lady also had diabetes. How do we know that this is playing a role? Well, they've done studies on the brain tissue. And as you can see here, I know this is a really busy slide, but down here you can see that glucose needs to use insulin to get into the cell in order to do what it's doing. Well, when you have insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, you cannot use glucose for fuel in the brain. So the brain is starving in that regard. Well, the brain isn't terrible and dumb. It does have another source of fuel, but it's ketones. Brain loves ketones, but if you follow a diet like the standard American diet, or if you don't do any fasting whatsoever, you're not making ketones. And so if you're not making ketones and you can't use glucose because you're insulin resistant, you're going to have deterioration and malfunction of the brain, leading to this type 3 diabetes. They've done studies. They've taken brain tissue and put them into petri dishes and given it glucose and ketones in equal amounts. And they use the ketones first because it's the preferred source of fuel. All of the people out here, Katie was an example of it too. You have more energy, you feel better because of the fasting, because of lowering the carbohydrates and improving insulin resistance. You feel better, your brain works better, you're able to do the things that you want to do. You can check out this book by Del Bredesen. It's a wonderful resource for any further Alzheimer's information. So fertility. I love talking fertility because people are very, very motivated in order to get pregnant. And so fertility is a big deal because the #1 cause of female fertility is PCOS, which is always, always, always related to insulin resistance. What happens is the ovary, the first hormone that the ovary secretes is actually an androgen, whether it be DHEA or testosterone or something like that. We rapidly convert it to estrogens by way of something called aromatase, which insulin turns off, so we can't turn it into estrogens. We have these increased androgens, and that's where things like facial hair, the darkening of the skin or acanthosis nigricans, skin tags, obesity, especially around the midsection, all come from increased androgens related to high insulin and that turnoff of aromatase. When it comes to pregnancy, I always point this out. Make sure you do your best to control your insulin resistance during pregnancy because your poor baby will be developed with more beta cells. Those are the cells that actually make insulin than a normal human being. And so that's where these morbidly obese toddlers come from, unfortunately, because they were marinating in insulin because mom's insulins were skyrocketing during the entire pregnancy. So we want to keep that under control. And then lastly, male fertility, #1, just like blood pressure. If your hose cannot vasodilate, you will have erectile dysfunction. So we need to improve the insulin resistance in the endothelial tissues. Number two, there is an inverse relationship between testosterone and insulin. The higher the insulin, the lower the testosterone. There's lots of people in this group who can attest that their insulin or their testosterone's doubled by just incorporating some of these strategies. Next, let's talk fatty liver. So this is that thing I mentioned earlier about storing fat in places it's not supposed to be stored. This is called ectopic fat. And so again, fat where it's not supposed to be. This can happen in the liver very, very readily with insulin resistance. It is, we have found, the #1 cause now of hospitalization in relation to liver disease. This surpasses alcoholic cirrhosis. It surpasses hepatitis C. Fatty liver disease is the biggest problem. I use this steak as an example. It unfortunately looks a lot like that liver, but the more we raise insulin, the more we feed junk into the system, the more we're going to have this ectopic fat problem. I did this out of order. I still fix it. This one's foie gras. That's how they do it with geese. They feed geese lots and lots and lots of grains. It fattens their liver, and then it becomes a delicacy for us to eat. The map is here for the prevalence, and I every time point out the fact that these are only the fatty liver cases we know of. Being a provider, I can guarantee you probably half of the patients I see have no idea they have fatty liver, but they do. They have got it. The lady I saw earlier, I'm certain she's got it. We don't know because we don't have a great test for it. So if you have insulin resistance, you can assume you've got fatty liver. I did the extra little topic for today I wanted to talk about was hypoglycemia. I get lots and lots of questions from people on the Feel Great system about, do I have to worry about my blood sugars getting too low when I fast? So here's your normal levels. So 75 to 100, they consider normal. There is a gap. Please pay attention to this gap because 65 to me is an excellent blood sugar. 60 is an excellent blood sugar. It is not too low. I hit the 50s all the time, so I don't technically worry about it, but people ask and they have concerns about what to do about it. So you can measure your blood sugar in a couple of ways. There is a finger stick and then there's a CGM. The finger stick you can do obviously at home with a little finger poke, or you can get a blood draw at your doctor's office. The CGM is a little bit different because it measures interstitial fluid. This is not blood. So it lags behind your glucose, your blood glucose by about 15 to 20 minutes. So if you see a spike in your CGM, that means it happened about 15 minutes ago. Always, always, if you wear a CGM, which I love to prescribe for people, but if you wear a CGM, verify the number with a finger stick because it can be up to 20 points off. All CGM makers acknowledge this and say, make sure you verify the numbers. So this does make a big difference in decision making. I wanted to point out here, this is from UpToDate. UpToDate is like the #1 medical resource. It costs me like $800 a year to have access to this. It's ridiculous. What are the causes of hypoglycemia? We've got insulin secretagogues. So things that make you secrete insulin, like your sulfonylureas, your glipizide, those kinds of things. Excessive alcohol intake, other medications. These do not include metformin or GLP-1s or any Jardiance, those kinds of meds. Those are not on that list if you were to go look it up. Critical illnesses, these are crazy. You'd be in a hospital if you had them. Cortisol deficiency, glucagon deficiency, you would know about this. And then all of these other really random things like an insulinoma, autoimmune hypoglycemia, which is actually type 1 diabetes. But what I want to point out is what's not on this list. Fasting is not on this list. Low carbohydrate diets are not on this list. Supplements, such as the Feel Great system, are not on this list. So please don't worry about hypoglycemia unless you're on one of these or have one of these other conditions that I'm pointing out. So what do I want you to do? In order to improve your insulin resistance, other than the Feel Great system, incorporate intermittent fasting, absolutely. Try to get those carbohydrates down, especially the refined processed ones. Prioritize your protein. Focus on healthy natural fats. Try to keep snacking to none or a bare minimum, and again, avoid those processed foods. Again, Unicity and the chlorogenic acid in it are wonderful. They're a great resource for helping you fast more and improving insulin sensitivity, and the balance does a great job on reducing hunger. So there is all of that. I will stop sharing my screen and hand it back over to Trent.
Hey, thanks so much, Lindsay. Okay, what did I tell you guys? I mean, she is an absolute pro on insulin resistance. And when Lindsay was talking about the insulin resistance, the different symptoms that come from it, if you were starting to feel like, wait a second, it sounds like every single problem under the sun when it comes to obesity, blood sugar control, problems like PCOS, erectile dysfunction, skin tags, all these things. everything. I mean, it is the root cause of all of these problems. It is a key contributor, I should say, to all of these problems. So the question that we should be asking is, what can be done to become more insulin sensitive? If I have these symptoms or these problems and I want to reverse it, what do I need to do? So we want to talk through the science behind this protocol very slowly and very clearly to make sure that anybody that's tuning into this call for the first time knows exactly what we're doing, okay? Before I do that, I want to ask everybody that's tuning into this call for a favor. There's 213 people on the live Zoom call right now. There's other people in the restreams on Facebook. Hello, everybody on Facebook or wherever else you are. I want to ask you for a favor. If you or somebody that you love has been using this protocol, whether you've been following this protocol we're about to talk about for a week or a month or a year, like Katie, if you have noticed a measurable improvement, I don't want you to exaggerate, okay? A measurable improvement, please just take a moment and write a sentence or two in the chat. So anybody that's been on the protocol and can write a measurable improvement that they or somebody in their family has experienced, if you could write it in the chat. I want to read over a few of those before we go into this protocol. Well, mostly because I want to build some belief here. When we first started doing these calls, our goal was to change the world. That's a big statement. I realize that, but we're serious about it. And I believe that as you see the stories of people who have been consistent with this protocol, you'll see what I mean. This has completely changed my life. Many of my loved ones are forever changed, and more people need to be talking about this. Now, if this protocol was owned by any of the big drug companies, everybody would know about it. That's not the way the world works. And so we are trying to spread awareness and teach people that are suffering from these problems what they can do about them, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and open these, and I'll just read a few. We don't have time to go over all of them. Holy cow. Okay, Trisha, I started this a month ago. I've lost 16 pounds altogether while I was already intermittent fasting. This has helped speed up the process. Love it. Stephanie Green, I was taken off my statin for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I'm down 30 pounds and I've reversed my type 2 diabetes. See what I mean? Change the world. I'm sleeping through the night. I've lost 10 pounds in 1 month. Jeff Lanham, I've reversed type 2 diabetes, my high blood pressure, and I've lost 62 pounds. Kim Harmon, I've been 90 days on it as of this week. I'm down 22 pounds. My acid reflux is gone. My joint pain has subsided. My energy has doubled. Deborah Saunders, down 43 pounds since August 6th, and I'm off my hormone pellets. Harikshit Dayal says, I myself have lost 45 pounds in 6 months. Krishna, no more migraine headaches. I'm off my medication for irritable bowel syndrome. Lots and lots of people with IBS, this protocol has completely changed their life. Thanks for sharing, Krishna. Mike Hatch, 5 months, no more insulin resistance, 40 pounds down. Sarud Hiwazi, lost 70 pounds in 3 months. Claudia Flores, no more high blood pressure meds. Way to go, Claudia. Tanya Lee, in 6 months, my A1C went from a 10 to a 5.8. In 2 months, I'm off my diabetic medications, off my blood pressure medications. Cholesterol is in range, down 28 pounds. Way to go, Tanya. Elite Field Services says total cholesterol down 58 points within the first month. Tracy Mowry lost 66 pounds, feeling better than ever. Reversed insulin resistance, no more pain. Alicia Sanchez, no migraines, normal blood pressure, low cholesterol, no more digestive problems, no more joint pain. Jennifer Truckenbrod, I cut all the Starbucks and energy drinks from day one, starting and no longer have heart palpitations from too much caffeine. Awesome, Jennifer. Melissa, I'm off my blood pressure meds, down 35 pounds, improved cholesterol numbers, more energy, reverse prediabetes. Jim, I reversed my type 2 diabetes. So has my mother and my mother-in-law. We are all off our statin medications. My blood sugar has normalized as well. I reversed Natalie Zierenberg. I reversed my I reversed my depression and I'm at my pre-junior high weight. And I've only been using the Feel Great system for 3 months. Pre-junior high weight. I mean, that's what you weighed when you were like 12, right? All right, Amory Wetton. Triglycerides from 247 down to 59. Insulin resistance score from a 3.2 to a 0.75, 0.75. Daryl Carey, I've lost over 62 pounds, being consistent for 5 months. No more fatty liver disease, and my A1C was an 8.2. Now it's a 5.9. Way to go, Daryl. Everybody. Noel Watson, 11 months, insulin is 7.1. No more meds. My pants went from a size 42 to a size 34. Jenny, I'm on month 4, 34 pounds down. My triglycerides have dropped from 165 to 107. Juan and Araceli Alonso, my A1C continues to lower. It's down to a 4.8. I've maintained my weight loss of 60 pounds. Yasmin, guys, I can't, there's 45 more messages. I cannot read these all. I want to read them all. If you're wondering if we're serious about changing the world, please scroll those messages. And if you're skeptical, if you're wondering if this could, I mean, are these all a bunch of paid actors and Trent has hired everybody to be puppets? Most of these are people I've never met in my entire life, just like you, who found out about this protocol and were tired and frustrated with things that weren't working for them. And they started the protocol and it has completely changed everything. To all of you who I was not able to read yours, I want you to know that I love you and I thank you for sharing it. And somebody else is scrolling right now and reading your story and being inspired by it. And I am just so happy for all of you. So what is this protocol? How can you maximize it? And if you are struggling on it, if you feel like, wait a second, I've been on this thing for 6 weeks and I've gained 2 pounds. What are these people talking about, right? This is why you are why we're having this call right now. And during the Q&A, we want you to raise your hand, ask questions. We want to dig into what's going on, and we want to help you get results too, okay? So I'm going to share my screen and really quickly explain this protocol, explain how it works and how to maximize results with it, okay? So Lindsay talked a lot about insulin resistance, and we're going to talk about this protocol that's very simple, that for me, there's nothing I've ever tried that works better than this for addressing the problem for Trent, right? So I struggle with snacking. I struggle with overeating. I'm one of these guys where if I'm not on a diet, I am gaining weight. And over the last 18 months, I've never felt better and have been able to maintain my weight, no problem. So I'm waiting for my screen share to load here. Just give me a second. Okay, still waiting. Let's see what's going on here.
While you wait on that,
Okay.
Trent, I want to pipe up just real quick and tell all of you people, I deal with patients for the last 10 years with insulin resistance. I have never heard stories like this before in my entire career. So good job, everybody.
And that's coming from one of the best in the world on insulin resistance. And I'm not exaggerating. Okay. What to eat, what to do, how to follow the protocol. All right, so what are we doing here? If this is breakfast and this is lunch and this is dinner, right? What we are doing is we're skipping one meal a day, okay? Now, the easiest one to skip, I won't go into all the science and details right now on why, but the easiest one to skip for most people is breakfast. Now, you can modify that if your situation's different, right? But when we skip a meal, we force our insulin levels down. So if the problem is too much insulin, we're going to force insulin levels down. And the best way to intentionally force your insulin levels down is with fasting. Now, fasting means eating nothing. I know what you're thinking. That sounds impossible. What if I get sick? What if I get hypoglycemic? Lindsay covered that well. What if? Listen, the human body for thousands and thousands of years has been fasting and feeding. It's the way we were built, okay? When we are fasting, we force our insulin levels down, okay? They're low. And we are not starving. We are simply going to switch fuel sources. Our body's going to get calories, but not from food. It's going to get the calories from fat. So while we skip breakfast We skip the Starbucks, we skip the McDonald's, whatever you're going to have for breakfast, the juice and the toast, we skip that. And instead of burning that food for fuel, we're going to burn body fat for fuel. It may take you a few days or a few weeks to get used to it. But once your body switches from burning food for fuel, carbs and sugar for fuel, to burning body fat for fuel, you're going to love the way you feel. You're going to be sharp. You're going to be more productive. You're going to save money that you were wasting at Starbucks or whatever, right? Or wherever, And so step one is we're fasting. Step two, prior to eating, we want to prioritize something that is crucial for controlling blood sugar and insulin, okay? And that is fiber. When we focus on the right types of fiber, different types of soluble fiber specifically, it eliminates the blood sugar and insulin spikes. It eliminates them, and it also is very satiating. So one of the reasons why food makers have got us to all eat past, our target weight to an obese weight is they have removed fiber from food. When you process foods and you take out the fiber, everybody eats more and everybody gets sick. And that's where we are today. So we're going to bring fiber back into our diet. Now, how do you do that? That sounds hard, right? Just like the fasting sounds hard. If fasting sounds difficult for you, we're going to show you how to make it easier. If getting, a rich garden salad with lots of veggies and fruits and seeds and herbs in before every single meal sounds difficult for you, if that sounds hard, we're going to show you how to make that easy, okay? So here's what it looks like. What we are doing is when we skip a meal, when we skip breakfast, we save a little bit of money. We saved the $5 we would have spent at Starbucks or McDonald's or whatever, and we're simply going to use that $5 to cover the cost of some things that you can buy that will make this super easy for you, okay? If this sounds difficult or if you struggle with willpower, let's make it easier, right? So we're going to take the $5 and that's going to cover the cost of some Unicity and a couple packets of a blend of fiber. So Unicity, the Unicity is used, you sip it. And as you sip it, you sip it during your fast. So while you're fasting, you're sipping the Unicity, and the Unicity makes me, the biggest food addict in the world, forget about food. I love Unicity. And when I'm sipping Unicity, I feel like I can fast forever, okay? So there's a lot of other good things that it does. We went into that in great detail last week. Maybe we'll touch on it again next week when we have more time. But the Unicity is amazing and it will help you fast. It helps me fast without any willpower needs, okay? Then the fiber is a blend of fiber that you will see over the next 10 to 20 years take over the planet. It's going to be common knowledge that by having this little packet of fiber before you eat a donut or a bowl of white rice or, French fries and a hamburger or a salad or whatever, if you have this prior to the meal, blood sugar doesn't spike the way it otherwise would. Insulin won't spike the way it otherwise would. It helps control cholesterol, triglycerides. I mean, look at the stories in the chat. When you combine the right types of fiber with intermittent fasting, these two steps, fasting and fiber, it is incredible what will happen. Blood sugar stops spiking, insulin stops spiking, and our bodies can become more insulin sensitive. Now, if you struggle, not if you struggle, but let's just say you're going to have a meal where you are going to have some pizza. I mean, we all love pizza from time to time, right? Or if you're going to go out for a birthday party for your child and it's cake and ice cream, then you can have 2 packets of the balance before that meal to further control the blood sugar spike. I typically do 1 Unicity in the morning and I do another Unicity between meals to help me stay away from the pantry. All right. So this is what we're doing. Now, I went on this protocol myself, and in about 5 weeks, nothing had really happened on the scale, but I felt good. And then over the next 10, 11 weeks, just my love handle started to shrink. And then I had a bunch of people, friends. This is a friend of mine for over 20 years. He lost 60 plus pounds and reversed his insulin resistance. This is a stranger who I've never met. His name is Eddie, Shirtless Eddie. He's a TikTok celebrity. He went on the protocol as a type 2 diabetic and now doesn't have diabetes anymore. He's lost over 100 pounds. He's off all of his medication. And I started to get these stories from people all over the world. Non-alcoholic fatty liver, Hashimoto's, PCOS, thyroid problems, right? People struggling with all kinds of things. People with type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, psoriasis, and all of the messages were the same. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people writing the same stuff that we just read here in the chat. And what they all agree is that this has been the easiest thing they've done that has yielded measurable results. In fact, the manufacturer that makes the Unicity and the Balance guarantees, they say, if you use it for 90 days and are consistent, it will work for you. And you can prove that it works if you do blood work with your doctor. So if for any reason somebody uses it, they can try it risk-free for 90 days. And if it doesn't blow their doctor away, if they're not 100% satisfied with the results, they can just get a refund. Now, who else will do that? Nobody. And so if people use this protocol properly, it helps remove willpower from the equation, which is what I've always struggled with, and just makes things so much easier. So if somebody that you love is struggling with their health, this could be a solution for them. If, like Katie, they've been on medications or they've been on things and it's not working, right? So, okay, I'm over talking here a little bit. Glenda Dunn says, this system saved my life. Oh, I love it. Stevie, thanks so much. Okay, this is so kind, guys. We're going to open up. I'm going to bring Lindsay Venn on. And let me see here. I also noticed, shoot, sorry, guys. I thought I had somebody else on here I was going to bring on for the Q&A. But I've got a couple of people. And so I'm going to bring Lindsay on here, and me and Lindsay are going to open up for the next 10, 11 minutes to Q&A. So if you or somebody that you love has questions about this, if you are skeptical, if you're not sure if this will work for you, if you've got crazy questions that I cannot answer, maybe Lindsay can. If Lindsay cannot answer them, we will be honest with you and tell you we don't know the answer, right? But if you're struggling, and I mean this, okay, if you are not getting results, we invite you to speak up. You might represent more than just you and we want you to speak up and we want to answer those questions. So anybody that participates in this live Zoom, you can either raise your hand and we will bring you into the call, or you can write a question in the chat. And if you put the question in the chat, we'll address it. So here's the first one. Praneet says, anyone who's diabetic and does not need to lose weight, how do they take this product? Lindsay, do you want to answer that?
Sure. So depending on the kind of diabetes, and there's always a caveat to this, but if it's type 2, which is the majority of people on a call like this, they can do a couple of things differently in order to not lose weight. One, just obviously make sure your calorie intake is still adequate. 2, maybe don't fast for as long. Maybe instead of skipping breakfast completely, maybe have breakfast at 10. There are definitely benefits to fasting, but that if you become hypocaloric because of the fasting, then you either 1, don't fast, or 2, increase calories at meals. But I have lots of people who are in that same boat and they do just fine, but still lower blood sugar, still lower cholesterol, and weight remains essentially unchanged.
Great. Darren has a question. Hi, can someone with stage 4 pancreatic cancer use this product? Would this help? Darren, we want to be clear that, if somebody's got stage 4 cancer, we are not in any way saying that take this product, the cancer could go away. Okay, I want to be clear about that. What I will say is there's no medication in either product. And so they're safe. This is a blend of fiber. It's a food-based product. This is a concentrated extract from the yerba mate plant. So they're both very, very natural, and there's not any drug interactions. They're both listed in the physician's desk reference, and there are no drug interactions somebody needs to be aware of. But as always, if somebody's got something serious like cancer and they're concerned, they could always consult with their doctor and just play it safe.
I really recommend the book, The Cancer Code by Jason Fung. It's a wonderful resource for cancer prevention and/or treatment.
Trisha Jones asked, is there a point where you cannot lose weight? I think you might be talking about hyperinsulinemia, where your insulin levels just get kind of locked on high, and it becomes very, very difficult to lose weight. Some people even do severe calorie cutting, and it's hard for them to lose weight. Instead of their body tapping into fat for energy, it cannot tap into fat for energy because insulin is so high and it's preventing it. And so what the body does is just makes these budgetary cuts, and it cuts energy from all the systems, and the body starts burning fewer calories. So, Tricia, but hyperinsulinemia can be reversed. And Lindsay, how would you respond to that? I'm maybe talking when I should let you answer that one.
No, that's a great answer. If your insulin levels are high, your body senses it has been fed. So there's no reason to break down fat because high insulin equals fed state in the body.
Okay, Beth Samra. Thanks, Beth, for this question. Beth says, my husband has been on the system for over 6 months to help with his high blood pressure. And so far, no changes according to his doctor, and he has been very consistent. So, Lindsay, I'll let you get to that one as well. But the Unicity is the most concentrated form of chlorogenic acid that I'm aware of on the planet. And if you just Google what chlorogenic acid does for normalizing blood pressure, it is amazing. So, in theory, when somebody is sipping the Unicity, that helps. Fasting helps. Lindsay talked about vasodilation that helps, but there may be some people with certain conditions. I know of a guy in the UK right now that the moment he has any caffeine whatsoever, it sends his blood pressure skyrocketing. And so, that's the opposite of what most people experience on the protocol. But there's always going to be case-by-case situations that we would need to address with more information once we had more information. So, Lindsay, how would you respond to Beth?
The only other thing that happens, and I hate to say this, but it happens with things like statins and metformin as well, is we get this sense of, oh, I'm taking this miracle thing, so I can do whatever I want. And so unfortunately, a lot of times that will hold people back because they are inadvertently eating more or taking in things they maybe wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah, and Beth, I would just encourage, your husband, if he wants a second opinion, he could reach out to somebody like Lindsay. Or, one thing he could try is if the caffeine, there's not very much caffeine in Unicity, it's a natural product, right? But if that is causing him any problem whatsoever, he may try a couple of weeks with just balance only and try fasting without anything. And then he could check again and see if that moves the needle. Okay, my blood pressure went down. I'm off my meds, but 6 months on the Feel Great system, now blood pressure is creeping up. Why? What to do? Well, Zoom user, thanks for the question. I think that this, in most cases, is usually what Lindsay just talked about. It's the, well, I'm doing so well, this, as long as I have this, I can kind of let my diet and my other things slip. And, that can happen from time to time. But we need a little bit more information about your diet, about what you're doing to answer it. So feel free to write that if you've got it, and we'll try to dig into it. Kamaljit Shahi says, my friend has itchy with balance. Please answer. I don't know what you mean by that, Kamaljit. Can you rephrase the question a little bit? We want to dig into that for you. I've not heard of anybody having an itch or a rash or anything with balance. But please expound on the question. J-Rock.
Well, the only other thing that might come from that trend is detox. When you start to do stuff like this, you detox, and skin is one of the biggest places that comes out.
Oh, thanks, Lindsay. Maybe that's it right there. Okay, J-Rock. After taking the balance packet and waiting 15 minutes, does it matter if you are drinking liquids while eating, or are you wanting to eat your food and then wash everything down with liquids if you're wanting a drink? This is an excellent question. I've been asked this question before, and the thought is, if I'm mixing, a little bit of water with the balance, and then I drink it, and then I sit there and, they bring me the drinks to my table and I start drinking and adding more fluid, is that going to cause a problem? I don't think that causes a problem at all. And I have not noticed a change in efficacy by having liquids throughout your meal. I don't believe you need to wait until the end of your meal. Randy Head, insulin inhibits lipoprotein lipase. So do your adipose cells. All right, here we go. Will not allow fat to be released into the bloodstream to be used as energy. Okay, that's not a question, but awesome. I love the science there, Randy. Way to go. Trent, it took my blood pressure 7 months to start normalizing, but it's normal now. Thanks, Jim. Hey, Beth, look at Jim. That's interesting. Can someone that had a surgery for a hiatal hernia use the Feel Great system? Thanks again. That's Darren. What do you say, Lindsay?
I would just go slow. Just make sure to wean up on that fiber. For sure, it's fine with the Unicity, but go slow with the fiber depending on the stomach's situation.
Thank you. My brother has type 2 diabetes, and I'm sure he has a baseline of his blood sugar and A1C numbers. What would be the best way to introduce this system to his daily life? Should he continue with this medication and introduce this system for 3 months and then check his numbers to evaluate success? Lindsay?
Holy cow. Sorry, I was looking for it as you were reading that to me. The best way to introduce it into his daily life is, I hate to say it, but get going. So, and I wouldn't ever recommend to take your own medications off or anything like that. Either reach out to me or reach out to his doctor. But this system and the things that come with the system that I mentioned in my slides are absolutely going to quickly fix his type 2 diabetes.
Yep. And so if somebody has blood sugar like this, okay, let's say it's high, and they go onto the system, it's going to naturally bring it down. Okay. And then if they're taking medications that artificially push blood sugar lower, it's going to start, those medications could push it too low, right? But this is a good problem to have, because that is an opportunity, like Lindsay said, to work with your doctor. You should do this with your doctor, but that's an opportunity to reduce or eliminate the medications. I mean, Katie mentioned she was on metformin for 20 years to control her blood sugar being too high. And now that the system has brought it down, she doesn't need the metformin anymore. She's off the metformin, no more side effects from the metformin. Hallelujah, right? Okay, Rani says, my friend gets a stomach ache with balance. What can she do? Lindsay?
Change up what she's doing. If she started out with a full packet of balance right from the get-go, a lot of people get upset stomach with that. Start with a half a packet, go slow, maybe just 1 meal a day, but just slowly work up. This is feeding and changing the microbiome, which can lead to some upset stomach and diarrhea and things like that. But it's all for the better and will get better over time.
Yeah, so let me just, this might be a little bit more of a harsh answer. If taking fiber causes bloating, diarrhea, constipation, gas, cramping, if fiber in your gut causes problems, that is an indication of something called dysbiosis, which is a damaged gut. And if you take balance and it makes you all kinds of uncomfortable or plugs you up or gives you diarrhea, drink a lot of water, start slowly, maybe start with half a packet before each meal or 1 packet per day, and gradually scale up. When somebody has a damaged gut, the key to fixing it is fiber, but you've got to start slowly and gradually scale up, or it can be a little bit uncomfortable. But yeah, that's just, if you have any of those symptoms, that would be an indication that you really need more fiber in your diet. Okay. La limpieza cada cuánto tiempo se toma. My Spanish isn't good enough to help with that one, Guadalupe. Sorry, maybe somebody can translate that one. Oh, there we go. I saw results in 15 days. Okay, good. Can people use their HSA to pay for the system? Lindsay.
In most cases, my customers are, and it's working.
Is diet and workout a must with the Feel Great system? Lindsay says, not a must, but definitely will go better and better for your health. Yeah, so here's the one thing above all else that I worry about with this protocol. The protocol is so forgiving that it allows people sometimes to digress with their nutrition and lifestyle habits. That is not what we're going for. We don't want that, right? You don't want that. None of us want that. We want to eat in the direction of our goals. Now, from time to time, we want to be able to enjoy food without paying a big price. And these products are very, very forgiving. But I would encourage all of us to use this in conjunction with positive lifestyle changes. And then we can all audition for Baywatch next year, okay? That's the goal. All right. Last, can we use 2 packets of Unicity at the same time? Yes, you can do that. Jasmine said I had to start with half a packet. Now I do a full one. Okay, everybody. You guys are awesome. We really, really appreciate everybody coming on this call. We do this every single week. Just so everybody knows, there's a really cool flavor of balance right now called Mixed Berry. It is a seasonal flavor. We hope that it will be here to stay because it's delicious, but it will only be here to stay if, the company sees that, a lot of people are ordering it. So when I place my order this month, and just so everybody knows, I don't get free product. I'm not a paid promoter of this. They don't send me product for free so that I'll talk about it. I pay the same price everybody else does. But I loved the apple flavor. I'm excited about the mixed berry. Apple's my favorite by far. Second place might be mixed berry. And then there are also there's a new flavor of Unicity coming out soon, or a new version of Unicity soon, which I've sampled, and it's absolutely fantastic. So, hey, next week, if there's somebody that you love and care about that is struggling with their health, and you invite them to participate in one of our calls, they will thank you later. This system works better than anything I've ever tried before. And in order for us to spread awareness, we need help. We need people talking about this. And so we appreciate that you're here. You're part of the solution to the biggest metabolic health problems that we're facing right now. We love you. We wish you the best of health, and we hope to see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Lindsay, and thank you, Katie. You guys are awesome. All right, some people are asking for Lindsay's contact info. Lindsay had posted her contact info. Then integrate. Let me see if I can find it. Lindsay, if you're still here, maybe type your website in the chat. Keiko says, Domo arigato. Domo arigato. Doi dashimashite. Thanks, everybody. All right.